So guys, I want to react to this Paris Milan video on Gina Rodriguez because I wanted to talk about Gina Rodriguez for a while, but here you go.
Hey, what's up, everybody? I just wanted to reach out and apologize. I am sorry. I am sorry if I offended anyone by singing along to the Fugees, to a song I love that I grew up on. I love Lauryn Hill, and I really am sorry if I offended you.
Hey you guys, shout out to Plug 2.0 for sending all of this information over regarding the problematic Gina Rodriguez. In today's video, I would like to address 5 times that Gina Rodriguez has been extremely problematic and why this is pretty much the Black community's fault. So please stay tuned for the rest of my commentary. Gina Rodriguez is an actress as well as a director, and she is best known for playing Jane Villanueva in the CW satirical romantic dramedy Jane the Virgin from 2014 through 2019, and she won a Golden Globe Award for her role in 2015. Aside from her directorial and acting contributions, Gina has caused a lot of backlash throughout her career due to the snide and snarky remarks that she has made in regards to the Black community. She often identifies as a Latina woman, and more specifically a non-Black Latina woman, so when she is in spaces that is discussing Black women, she is often trying to divert the attention back to the Latin community. And this is typical of some individuals who are non-Black Latins. They like to pretend to have a Black and brown coalition when they know it's going to benefit the Latin community, or when there are Black issues on the forefront, they like to skirt away and they like to all lives matter or create the conversation in an intersectionality type form. So because of that, the Black community has called Gina Rodriguez out for it. And I want to go back to the beginning of her starting this bullish because she has a history of doing this. Let's start with number 1, which is the DC and Marvel bitterness that she was spewing in regards to Black Panther. In 2017, this is when there was a lot of hype and talk about Black Panther, which was going to premiere the following year in 2018, and Gina Rodriguez thought it would be a good idea to try to talk about inclusivity in terms of Latinos. So she says,
Not gonna lie, I seen this from a lot of like Latin people when Black Lives Matter was coming about and the Black Panther. I seen this so much. Like they would be in the comment section like, "Oh yeah, that's cool and all, but what about Latinas?" And I do feel like that is extremely disrespectful. When someone else has something going on, you don't need to constantly insert yourself in it.
Marvel and DC are killing it in inclusion and women, but where are the Latinos? Asking for a friend. So someone responded and said Zoe Saldana, Rosario Dawson, Jay Hernandez, Michael Pena, Tessa Thompson, Natalie Cordova. So someone was clearly pointing out the fact that you are getting inclusivity there. I mean, some of these women might identify as Afro-Latinas, but you are definitely getting inclusivity. So like, what are you talking about? And this should point out their bias and privilege, that they pick and choose who the face of the Latin community is, which is definitely a culture, it's not a race. But there are Black Latins, there are white Latins.
I hate when people say they're not a race, they're not a race. They're not considered the same as us. Just leave it as that.
There are mixed race Latins. The women like Gina Rodriguez feel like the face of the quote-unquote Latina, Latinx, Latino community should be the ones who look like her, who most likely identify as white. Now we are on to number 2.
I honestly didn't perceive that that's what she meant. I feel like she meant she wanted a movie dedicated to her, like culture or whatever, just like Black Panther. I don't think she meant that like there isn't any actresses or actors in the movies who look like her or are what she is, but
Was the interview that she did alongside Yara Shahidi for the animated film Smallfoot that they had contributed their voice acting talent to. In this interview, this Black man was talking to Yara about representation for Black women. Gina got a bit triggered by it and decided to interject. I want to let you guys listen to this audio.
You are just goals for so many young Black women who just look
For
up
more,
to
so many
you.
women.
So many women.
Women.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
women too, but for
Yeah.
Black women, we need.
that's cringy. I don't like when people do that. Like, let people have their own moments, you know? I know it's a lot of white women do that too, but yeah.
People on a whole nother level. How does that feel for you to be so young and just be like a role model for so many people?
I mean, it's overarchingly just kind of surreal, but I have to appreciate the fact that the support comes from me just being me, and so luckily I don't have to like promote some sort of facade to gain that support. But also I feel like it's been amazing because I get to be a part of such an incredible and thoughtful and brilliant community, and so it's very easy to just be constantly motivated and inspired because you look next to you in any which direction, and there are people that are like continuing to work in another industry in another area of your life.
So although I am glad that he brought the conversation back to, no, it's not about all women, we're talking about black women right now. The only thing that irritates me is I think that Yara is biracial, if I'm not mistaken, so I don't really feel like that was the right conversation to talk about black women's representation, especially when he was not talking to black women in that interview directly. You guys correct me if I'm wrong, if she is a light-skinned black woman, but I do believe I saw a picture.
This is very true. I hate when people ask me to speak up for like a culture that I can't fully speak for. It typically happens when it comes to like black people or native people. They'd be like, oh, speak for them, and it's like I can't speak for all of them. I can speak more so for like mixed people. I can't speak for like these other two.
Yara's father, and I think he is white or non-black, but either way, still he's trying to bring the conversation about black women needing to be positively represented, and Gina was like, no, this is about all women. And it's like, wait a minute, when you had that tweet talking about Marvel and DC, you weren't really caring about all women being part of the conversation. You brought it up briefly. It was like, yeah, great, there's women there, but what about Latinas? And so it's like, okay, now we're talking about black women specifically, and you're so irritated and so repulsed by the fact that we're talking about ample representation for black women, and it's like, no, we shouldn't be talking about that, we should talk about all women. But she didn't stop there. It only got worse throughout the end of the year, and that brings us to number 3, when she did the interview with Porter alongside Ellen Pompeo, Gabrielle Union, and Emma Roberts, and she decided to falsely bring up that black women are getting paid more than Latina women. I'll let you guys listen to that audio.
I get so petrified in this space talking about equal pay, especially when you look at the intersectional aspect of it, right? Where white women get paid more than black women get paid more than Asian women get paid more than Latino women. And it's like a very scary space to step into, because I always feel like I fail when I speak about it, because I can't help but feel already so gracious to do what I do. And I feel like culturally, I was raised to just feel so appreciative of getting here. Recently being faced with being offered a project where my fellow actress was offered it prior, and she tells me how much she was getting paid for it. And then I ask for the same amount, and they say no, because you're not worth that much. As she was, because she's bigger than I am. But it's the same job. It's the same amount of hours, the same movie.
So again, she's speaking about these
It's crazy when people say stuff like that though, because like she's bigger than you. She's gonna bring in more of an audience. Like, yeah, it's the same job, but she's coming with a fan base. Like when people were getting mad because Tamira Mori was getting paid more than them, a lot of us were there because of Sister Sister. Like, I'm sorry, it's the truth. I think Lolly pointed that out. Like, y'all are getting mad at her as if she didn't come with a ready-made fan base. We didn't. I mean, we cared about Adrian, and everyone knew Lonnie from Soul Plane. Tamar came with like her own fan base as well, and I think she got paid really good too. And people were mad at them too. I remember that. Cause like they would like throw little sneak disses to Tamar and Tamara, but they came with the biggest fan bases. And then after them, it was Adrian. You can't get mad at that. If you don't come with that, you're not gonna get paid the same as it. Credentials speak louder.
Black Latinas, as if there are no black Latin women who would be part of that conversation. I believe that there are more black women who identify as Latin or not who are getting paid less than the white Latin women, such as like a Sofia Vergara or a J-Lo or whoever else. And people,
It's no way you're looking at Sophia and J-Lo as white Latins. Stop it. Cameron Diaz, maybe, but these two.
actually pulled this up and were able to find out that, hey, Sofia Vergara is like one of the top paid actresses and she's considered a quote-unquote Latina. It's like she wants to engage in this oppression Olympics, the woe is me, the pity party, the poor Latinas, and it's like, stop. And so because of that foolishness that she tried to engage in front of Gabrielle Union, which was disturbing to me, that Gabrielle would even give her the time of day, and in the interview it was a little cringeworthy when Gabrielle was like, you know, I'm gonna brag on you for a bit, like trying to big her up, and I'm like, Gabrielle, no, like she is the enemy. What are you doing? But anyway, so because she got a ton of backlash for that interview, again, trying to shade Black people and more specifically Black women in order to uplift non-Black Latin women, she decided to go on the good Shuck and Jive show, the Sway Morning Show, which brings us to number 4, the problematic comments that she made on his show. And you guys should really side eye Sway. I don't give a freak that he's from the Bay Area, Northern California. I showed you guys a video in the past where this Black artist was talking about his love for Black women, and Sway like basically reprimanded him, like, what about all women? That's a whole nother video. But anyway, so she went on his show and had the nerve to try to pull the haymaker that I told you guys about, that a lot of these problematic colorist, anti-Black, quote-unquote Latinas try to pull when people are calling them out, which was, I'm part of the Black community, my family's Afro-Latino. So I'll let you guys listen to the audio of her giving these fake Spanish mayo tears on Sway Morning Show.
The backlash was devastating, to say the least, because
take your time. Take your time with it, Gina.
Because this is also my first. Okay, I got this.
Got it. Take your time with it.
Because the Black community was the only community I looked towards growing up. We didn't have many Latino shows, and the Black community made me feel like I was seen. So to get anti-Black is saying that I'm anti-family. My father is dark-skinned. He's Afro-Latino. And my cousins are, and Puerto Ricans are African, Taino, and Spaniard, and it's in my blood. So that was really devastating to me. And I know my heart. I know what I meant. And I really wish that we weren't living in a culture where we're clickbait, because I've never said anything controversial about anybody. And
you know what's funny about this to me is that they were mad at her for saying like I think she said the N-word if I'm not mistaken. And they're like, you're not Black, you're not Black. But y'all love forcing Puerto Ricans, Dominicans, and all these other Hispanic people and telling them, you're still Black, you're still Black, you're still Black. But when they say, no, we're not, we're this, y'all get mad. But then when they say the N-word, it's like, no, you're not Black. Bro, like, y'all never know what y'all want, and it's aggravating. And she's a very great example of that. Y'all love telling Puerto Ricans they're Black. You love telling Dominicans they're Black. So when she says the N-word, why are you mad? Why are you mad? That makes no sense to me.
And far would I ever, because if anything, the Black community is my community. As Latinos, we have Black Latinos. Like, that is what we are. I am not, right? So I think when I speak about Latino advocacy, people believe I mean only people my skin color. And little do they know that I'm very aware of what my culture is and the opportunities I create and who I put in those spaces are both the Latino and the Black community. So it was a really dark time for me because it made me get away from social media.
Yeah, that's also weird because like Latinos are a mixed race group. Some are light, some are dark, right? They're basically the same as like us mulattoes. Like some of us are light and some of us are dark. I feel like the Black community, because like a lot of them they see themselves as like, okay, we're dark and brown skin, right? So when we're talking about Black people, we're talking about people who look like us. So when she's talking about her people, she has to talk about people who look like her. But little do they realize like her community is a mixed race community, just like mine is. So when we're talking about issues, I'm talking about across the board, whether you're white passing or dark skin mixed. I'm fighting for all of us, just like she is. And I feel like sometimes like the Black community doesn't realize that because, you know, they typically are dark skin or brown skin.
Mental health is much more important to me.
So not only was it highly disgusting and abhorrent that they were trying to console her as if she's some petrified, poor victim that is deserving of sympathy, even though she kept coming for the Black community, she deserved every bit of the backlash and dragging that she was getting. How dare you try to insult our intelligence, as if we all do not have the ability to see that your dad is not no dark-skinned Afro-Latina king. gang. That man is every bit of non-black as you are. And even listen to her voice, how she tried to add that quang quang, where it's like, oh, let me try to sound more relatable to the black people on the show. And it's like, stop it. We don't care where you're from. We don't care if you're from Chicago. And a lot of them like say, oh, I'm from New York. You know, we like to use the N-word. We don't care where you're from. You're not black. He may have had a little bit of
Again, she's like, you're not black, but then the rest of the black community like, Puerto Ricans are black, Dominicans are black. Dominican isn't a race, so you're still black. Puerto Rican isn't a race, you're still black. So blame yourself, blame your own community. Don't get mad at her for saying that she is something she part is, or using the same words.
slight tan, but nowhere near dark skin. Just look at his features. That is not an Afro-Latin man, and she knows it. But they feel like the black community is so dumb, so feeble-minded, and so thirsty for validation that they can throw you bones like that. They'll be like, you know what, I identify with your community the most. But every time that you hear her in her interview, she's always vouching for her own community and culture, which is the Latin, Hispanic ethnicity that she identifies as. You don't hear her repping for black people. You don't hear her fighting for you to get equal representation and pay. She's constantly talking about you and how you are personally affecting the Latina bag for her. Always making it a point to try to throw the black community under the bus, and mainly black women. And then when she gets caught out on it, it's like, that really hurt me. My family's Afro-Latino. I'm Afro-Latino. My grandma was a black queen. My dad's a dark-skinned king. We're all black, right? And this is exactly what happened with Evelyn Lozada, with Cardi B, with Sin Santana, with the rest of them, where every time that black people are starting to wake up and see, okay, wait a minute, like, why do you keep coming for us? We've been nothing but more of a community to you than you've been to us. And all of a sudden it's, oh, I can say the N-word because I'm Afro-Latina. Oh, I can say it because my great-great-great-great-great-grandma was black. It's like, stop it. It's disgusting to me. And it just seems like this month and this year alone has been the manifestation of the black and brown community being exposed for what it always was, which was never a community to begin with. There was never a coalition. And I just want you.
Exactly, because we're not the same. We're not the same. But the thing is, all of the black community does not respect us saying that. So I agree. Like, she's gonna be called like a different racial slur than us. Mixed people have the right to say that word. But I feel like if you didn't get called the word, you really shouldn't be saying it, you know. But that is partly the black community's fault because they keep telling them that, hey, you're black, you're black, you're black. So when they be like, okay, well, I'm gonna use things from black culture that I like, you can't get mad.
To see how they will modify their appearance so that they're not held accountable. Devlin Thotzada at the reunion where she was pretty much in blackface. I mean, look at her skin tone at the reunion. I did not watch it, but y'all sent me pictures. But just look at how dark they tried to make her makeup. Like, oh, I can't be colorist.
Dude, her whole body looks dark like she went to the beach. I don't understand why every time someone has a tan, they're in blackface all of a sudden. She looks she went to like the beach for a while.
Look at how dark she really is. And it's like, girl, bye. You know, any other time you are not that dark and they tried to get your foundation onto something similar to OG so that you wouldn't be called colorist. But this is all the different types of tricks that they're pulling out their bag when it comes to them trying to secure their funding from their sponsorships and getting other roles and all these other things. But sadly, what happens is every time that they do something problematic to the black community, instead of black people canceling them by not allowing them to come on their shows, trying to get sympathy, consistently blocking them from any event that is black related, you guys allow them to come back as if they did nothing wrong. And this is why it brings us to number 5, which was today. She called herself trying to rap the Fuji song and use the N-word. And the crazy part is, if you listen to that song, that's not the only lyric in the song. That's not even the main focal lyric of the song, okay? But that's what she chose to edit out and post. That lets you know it's intentional. So not only did she post her saying the N-word, then she comes out with this half-baked fake apology, where to me, it looked like she wanted to bust out laughing because she feels like the black community is such a joke. And then she kept repeatedly saying, oh, if I offended you, if I did X, Y, and Z. Instead of saying, I did this, I'm sorry, blah, 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 she said, if I offended you, which means she doesn't even feel like you're worthy of a genuine apology because guess what? She's not sorry. And the reason why they're allowed to do this is because you get licking coons like this T-Gob music. I don't even know who the freak he is, but I screenshotted this comment that he left where he was talking about, you know, people being too dang sensitive in regards to like black people. And you know what? People are gonna bring up a good point that he's a African, he's West African, he's from Sierra Leone. I don't even know what his music is. He calls himself being woke. And it's crazy because oftentimes what we as black Americans have noticed, and this is not every single last African, but we have noticed that with some of you guys, it appears as if you will try to side with non-black people and then tell black Americans that they're being too sensitive, and you guys will go against.
To be honest, it's because like the way they're treated when they get here, the way Africans are treated when they get here by like the black community, they're very much othered, bullied, harassed, tormented. So it's like they can kind of see it from like a wider perspective than I feel like black Americans can.
Us in order to cater for other communities. Meanwhile, when those communities turn on you, then you want to come back to black Americans. And this is why there is a divide to this day with a lot of non-black American people, because we keep seeing that you guys keep turning on us and trying to act like you don't see color and you're not race baiting or you're not doing X, Y, and Z like these black Americans are doing. And it's like, okay, but you're gonna face discrimination the same way we will. So all this caping and, oh, you know, whatever triggers you controls you. Are you gonna attack every person singing a song? It's like, shut up. Go sing your little dusty, ashy, rap, non-existent music that you got and go kiss Gina's behind. I hope she buys up all your little raggedy albums that ain't nobody buying and they not selling. But you are definitely part of the problem, as well as some of these women who are considered.
They like literally attack anyone who has a different opinion than them.
Actual Afro-Latinas like Tahiri, who was like, oh, well, y'all got time today. Wow, are you serious? Trying to act like what Gina has been doing historically was nothing wrong. And it's like, are you serious now? Tahiri are not gonna ever get the time of day that a Gina would, and Tahiri hasn't even said an inkling of what Gina has. But again, this is who these black people cape for. A lot of people are dragging Gina right now. You know, there's this black man named Ernest Owens. He said, black women been telling y'all Gina Rodriguez was an anti-black problem. Shouldn't have taken her to say the N-word before y'all woke up, but go off. And people were dragging her on Wikipedia. They have her occupation as an actress, director, and a racist, and they said years active, 2004, always flopped. So, you know, there's definitely some people who are going to call her out on her dumb-ish, and there's also some people that are going to say, oh, well, I don't think she's racist, and just because you say the N-word doesn't make you racist. Yes, it does. If you have not been on the receiving end of being oppressed by that word, you do not have the right to use it, and you do not have the right to tell black people how they should use it and who should and who shouldn't say it. Just as other communities have certain slurs that they would take offense to us saying, so it's like, hey, should we just start calling y'all wetbacks and say, oh, well, contextualize it? If we start saying all that kind of stuff and saying that we need to just contextualize it, then allow every slur to be a matter of context and no longer even called a slur at this point, since y'all want to play these childish games. Black people have to take ownership for allowing women like Gina Rodriguez, the Cardi B's, the J-Lo's, the Sin Santanas, Adrian Vylons, who are also problematic as Evelyn Lozada's, allowing these colorist, non-black, anti-black, quote-unquote Latinas to come into the black community, make millions off of it, and start to get comfortable. They still feel like they can dish you, and they know there's not going to be any ample backlash because all we're going to do is sit on Twitter and talk about them and then forget about it and go buy.
That's very true, but it goes back to like sometimes the black community like obsesses over people of different races and like tries to make them act, you know, like hood or whatever because they find it funny because it's weird. It looks weird on them, which makes it funny, and because it's like very ironic. And then they get mad when they get that same, like when they get success off of it, and then show how problematic they really are because it's not natural for them.
their films or whatever the case is. It has to stop being relegated onto social media. Again, if you have an event, a women's empowerment event, and you're black, don't hire her. If you have some sort of acting cast that you're looking for, some sort of talent, don't hire her. If you are trying to conduct an interview, don't ask her to speak. There's so many different ways that these people can be canceled, and they would do the same thing to us if we ever fixed our mouths to try to offend them in the way that they openly do to us. But we have to actually be willing to take the action.
That's actually very true. I do feel like sometimes like the black community is way too open to other communities. Like they would never let you do that at their events. I'm just gonna be honest, they would never let you do that. But y'all let them. And that really doesn't make sense to me.
If we want to see these people suffering consequences for dissing us the same way we would if we did it to other communities. So those are the 5 times that Gina Rodriguez has been extremely problematic. Appreciate you guys so much for watching. Please make sure you thumbs up, share this video, comment, and